to the DAO that would like to introduce themselves to the community and so on, because we are going to have the whole process done this week, probably in the next coming days. So it would be nice if some candidates that may be a little bit more unknown to the community have a chance to go forward and tell their opinions, proposals, and everything else.
Yep. Can everyone hear me okay? To make sure my mic's right just before I start.
Yes,
we can hear you.
Okay. It's Damien here. I have applied. I will be applying for one of the multi-sigs. I guess I could give just a few things that, just in brief, I'm sure we've all probably got similar sort of ideas where we'd like the project to go and securing that we get that way. I think for one of my main driving force is, I'm sorry this may be what everyone wants to hear, but I'm not overly concerned with Grow's price, pumping in any way, shape or form. If anything, I'm more I would prefer a more steady sort of growth in the price. And I think I'd have to be honest and lay my cards on the table and say that if I was a member of the multi-sig, I'd be actively looking to benefit the whole protocol, with the likes of, the good example being the likes of this treasury. Once the treasury is formed, to actually get funds, we're going to have to sell Grow, and people mightn't like that, because it effectively may drop the price a little. But I would hope that the multi-sigs, whoever are elected, would take that into consideration and not try to throw, say, 5 to 10k Grow on one sale that they would sort of drip feed. But I'd want to be honest from the start that my main concern would be the likes of the Treasury and making sure that we do have funds, especially when we look now over the past 2 weeks now. I know it's been on the audit on that, but there wasn't much really happening in terms of sales or buys or that. Well, apart from when we first started Stake Grow, of course. But during that time, that's really when I think the Treasury should be, at times like that even, is where the Treasury is best suited to make its money. Well, there's nothing really happening in the ecosystem with buys and sells on Grow. People could maybe think that we're being stagnant, but with an active treasury and taking low and in some cases maybe high risk investments or investment strategies, we can actually then grow the treasury so that in times use it as a stimulus to the Grow price. And the likes of that would be a more long-term thing. The Treasury needs to get to a reasonable size before, in my mind, before they just some of the money back at our Stake Grow holders, in that effect. So I think everyone's got a similar idea. I'm hoping most people have a similar idea on the Treasury. We need to have a finance. We need to have money or capital that we can utilize to make more. There's always going to be fees and such like, and there is money to look after the team. Treasury's well suited, I think, and I think there's a real grit. What I love about this group is there's a lot of knowledge, and like myself, I definitely came into this whole Grow and ETH not really knowing anything. I have to give a lot of credit to Safe. Regularly sharing papers. Some of them are a bit too highbrow for me, but them links, YouTube videos, podcasts. I think as long as multi-sig has members on it that are keeping up to date, and or even ones that know about all of the protocols. As long as people are willing to put a bit of time, and whenever it comes to my voting, I will be looking for people who are basically, are that. With no need for yes men. There's no problem. We can get a lot of people just to be like, yes. Relatively active. That doesn't mean like I do most of the day, laughing about on the internet. But have to have a wee bit of time. Either they need to have the knowledge or they need to be willing to develop the knowledge, in my opinion. But I just to be quite blunt, the cards on the table is I don't overly care about the grow price. Whether it goes up or down doesn't I have a fair bit of skin. I got just under 50k in but I think that it's more important treasury grows because that will be or when there's a lot of people or if we have any, it isn't just weekends. Things happen in people's life and they sometimes just are forced. Um, so in that respect, there is times where we get
Mhm. You're cutting out, Damo.
Yeah, you're cutting out a bit. Hold that mic up to your face.
right. Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Right. Sorry about
Yes.
that. Yeah, just I'm more interested. Short-term grow price doesn't. Of course, I would like it to go up. Everyone would, but I don't care if we sit line going around here. If we get up to 30 and then back to 20, and we fluff about that, or we get up to 50 and then to 30. That is not my. I'm not concerned about that. I have a lot in stake grow, and that's because a year from now, the price we're at now will be irrelevant. What's important to me is we get the right people in for the treasury. And we don't need yes men, and we need people. These people are going to be deciding for the likes of a grow sell. Say for example, the treasury decided it was going to sell 2k, and we all then have to multi-sign that. At any stage, someone could pass that information on, or they could use that information to their advantage. So knowledgeable people, trust, and anyone who is basically in the long term mindset of the whole grow platform and not actually growth price. That's where my vote will be going. I think I've blabbered on probably enough. So if someone else wants to, if any of the other multi-sig applicants are here and would like to have a wee word, that would be great.
Yes, first of all, for a little bit of context, the transaction for unlocking the 500,000 growth, which is what the treasury is going to start with, was done yesterday. You can see it on Twitter, the transaction hash and everything. So that's going to be the starting balance, 500,000 growth. If any other candidate wants to go ahead and comment a little bit about governance or what they would do, their proposals or something along those lines, feel free. Go ahead.
Hey guys, how you doing? It's your boy here.
Hey.
I know some of you guys know me by the chat only, so you just want to introduce myself. I'm here in charge of everything Grow DeFi off-chain related. So you can count on me with the UI, the servers. If anything is failing besides the contracts, feel free to reach me out, right? So the reason I'm here proposing myself as a candidate is as being inside the core team and having this whole scope of the off-chain architecture. It will be nice for me to have the development best interest in for all the community, that we can take good decisions in terms of development, not only on the financial side, but also on technical side. So that's the reason I'm proposing myself as a candidate, as well as Damo. I think this project is very focused on the long term, so let's there's no like, how can I say this, interest to take short-term bad decisions to increase growth price on the short term, but instead having the growth price increase in a stable and healthy way on the long term. So that's my proposal, and if anyone has like any questions or any suggestions, I am here to answer.
Yes, and if not, another candidate, maybe Stefan, I think it's over there, or...
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Stephen is here.
Hi. Okay, first of all, if my mic is not working well or you can't hear me clearly, please let me know. And also, I'm not a native English speaker, so whenever I don't express myself clearly, please don't hesitate to just ask.
Your English is perfect.
So maybe you know me from the Telegram group as Stefan, and yeah, I want to introduce myself as a DAO member. Mostly, okay, mostly, let's be clear. I don't want to catch any votes or something. I see myself more in the role as someone asking critical questions in general. Even if these questions sometimes might sound a little, let's say, easy questions or whatever. One of these questions, for example, would be if we selling the some part of the treasury, that this, for me, as my perspective, is some kind of bet that we outperform the market, kind of beating the market. But on the other hand, it of course gives us a lot more flexibility. So the treasury cannot only sell grow, but also can buy back grow. So yeah, as many of you may have recognized in the Telegram group, I see my role mostly as someone asking every kind of question or raising concerns as well. And yeah, whoever in the Telegram group feels like that, who can identify with my opinions or questions and see me as a person who maybe is representing very well the community, can feel free to vote for me or delegate some SDK grow on my behalf. And yeah, I'm gonna be honest in regards of how to use the treasury funds and especially some kind of let's say strategies, yield strategies. I wouldn't say I'm the pro on this side. My knowledge go just as far as being very aware of most of DeFi projects and know which ones are kind of sustainable and which are not. So yeah, there's some kind of introduction to my mindset. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Okay,
Thanks.
yeah, just go ahead. Okay. Well, what I wanted to say is that for those who don't know, the way that actually voting, delegating is going to work is that the stake growth balance that you have is essentially your voting power, your delegating power, and you can't split it up. So you can, if you have 100 growth, for example, 100 stake growth, sorry, you can't split it up 50-50 between two candidates, which means that each Ethereum account has to delegate only to one address. That's very important to remember. Are there any other candidates that want to speak up or maybe any questions? It doesn't have to be governance related. It can be anything else. Feel free to talk.
Okay, I have a question regarding the ongoing audit. Is it currently working that or currently processing in the way that the audit company is giving you feedback while the audit so that you already started to fix small bugs, or will they provide all the information at once in the end?
Okay, so regarding the audit, it's basically almost done. The private report has been submitted, and they only found 2 medium risks. They classify it as medium, but well, you can read the whole description and everything when it's public. But no critical issues were found, and no funds are at risk, according to the audit performed.
That's very good news.
Tudor?
Hello?
Hello? Well, hello. I'm Paul. So maybe you've met me on the group as well, and I also wanted to participate in this governance election that was going on. So I'll present myself. Let me know if you don't hear me or if it cuts. Well, I'm knowledgeable about blockchain, DeFi, of course, as more or less each of us, I would say, been part of this project, been exposed at this project. I have discovered Grow late August, right before after the listing. So that's a bit when I get involved, and when I started to follow a bit the development of the project. So from there, what I see that can be what are going to be the next step? Obviously, it's the consensus audit, as you just discussed, that is going to be one of the milestones of this project, and also the creation of the DAO. So in these 2 aspects, I believe that I can bring some value. I have experience in operation, in project delivery, and I think that in this matter, at this state of this project, is some effort that we should start to put in the visibility that we may gain with the consensus audit that is going to be published. Will bring people getting interested in the project and looking at the project, and there are some very, in my perspective, in my opinion, there are some very fundamental pieces that still need to be fixed, such, for instance, the white paper that will need a good refresh, and so all those small details. I think that the creation of the DAO should be also the opportunity to start to gather all the volunteers that we may have in our community, and to start to identify those volunteers, the skills that they may have, the value that they may bring, and start to use our community and the people around GROWTH, all those people that strive to bring something to this project, to give them the tool and the opportunity to do so. So I think that's something in which I can myself bring value in this perspective, more than in the programming or the designing, in which things that I will be totally useless. So yeah, that's a bit the direction that I see for those 2 big events that are coming. So yeah, that's Paul. If you have any question or anything, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, any other questions? Someone that wants to speak up, do a proposal, or basically anything else?
Is there any plan for the GRT to come out before January, or is it going to be after, like, say everything's done with the DAO and the other stuff?
What are you referring to?
Is the GRT token, like, projected to come out in the next, say, like 2 months or so, or is it something that's going to be like a longer token to build, I guess?
Well, first of all, you have to be something that the multisig agrees on, because it does involve the multisig, and managing another treasury and so on. But if it's all agreed, I think it could be done under a month.
Oh, cool. Nice.
May I ask how exactly the multisig is involved in launching the GRT token?
Yes, well, basically it would have to manage a separate treasury from the stake grow treasury itself.
So it's like the grow for the grow pools?
Not exactly. The same way it manages the grow treasury, it would have to manage the treasury for GRT. So this means there would be two separate multi-sig wallets which have the same signers. So the DAO process and everything is the exact same thing, but in this case they are separate because they are from separate treasuries essentially. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yep, it did.
You admitted.
What is the GRT token exactly?
Okay, so the GRT token is basically a proposal which it isn't confirmed that it's going to be done yet. It is something that, like I've said before, that the multi-signature signers have to agree on, but it would be a rebase token version of a DeFi token, most likely Aave. So instead of rebasing to the dollar as a stable coin, it would rebase to Aave and have its own treasury, kind of like how the Jam treasury works, but in this case it would use the same DAO format as StakeGrow does. So basically, StakeGrow would control both the Grow treasury and the treasury of this rebased token, and then it would have the 2 or 3 liquidity token pairs on Uniswap with the incentives and so on. I mean, that's just a really brief explanation on what it would be, because like I've said, it's just a proposal at the moment. But if everyone agrees on doing it, it could be added to the whole umbrella of projects and help grow, and also have another functionality because it has a lot of synergies with the existing products. Essentially, whenever a treasury, it can be gross or it can be another one's, uses G tokens and PMTs, then that treasury is essentially using a fee-free service, because the fees that it pays are redirected back to the protocol. So it's actually much more efficient. If you were to use another protocol that has a similar automation service, then you would be paying approximately between 3 to 5% on total fees and annualized. And that can really add up if you are managing treasuries which are in the tens of or hundreds of millions of dollars. Anyone else that wants to ask anything, do a proposal, talk about governance, basically in any topic is allowed, as long as it's related with growth, of course.
Normaliter zou je restitutie een maand na de nieuwe datum van de show of festival ontvangen, zoals vermeld in de regeling. Dit is allemaal waar. We hebben goed nieuws. Op verzoek van je organisatie hebben je
You mentioned uncollateralized lending in the chat here. Could you talk us through that? What your plans are?
You have the mic open. Just did hit, I think. Don't worry. Yes, you mentioned uncollateralized lending.
Yes. Recently, I looked into the Trust Token platform, which already does something like that. So I'd be very curious what that would look like for Grow.
Correct. So there are basically two ways that uncollateralized loans are being done right now. One is through a platform which is called DeFi, which basically they whitelist members. Recently, they added Sam Bankman-Fried and Alameda Research to the list, and they make loans to them, knowing that they are reputable and trustworthy and everything. And the second option would be ABE credit delegation. So the way it would work is that if the multisig has proven itself for a very long time, then with its bank run and everything, it would make sense for some people to not mind lending to the multi-signature account in exchange for a higher yield without having a collateralized positions. Hopefully that explains your question.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions, topics that want to be touched on?
I would like to ask about the current funding situation. Maybe you can give us a short overview how this looks like right now, and if there are any plans for like future funding.
Funding in regards to the development side, that
Yes.
was your... Okay, so as you already know from the white paper, there is a certain amount of growth which is allocated towards team and development expenses. So that can be used. There's also the PMINE bankroll in case it's needed as a consequence of the growth swaps. I mean, there is plenty of funding to go on for years to come. And also with the treasury coming live and that growth being used, if it's managed correctly, because it starts with a 100 exposure in holdings to grow. So maybe, well, it depends on what the signers decide, but maybe it would be a good idea to diversify that exposure a little bit. But overall, as long as it is correctly managed, there shouldn't be any issues going forward with funding.
And how big is the PMINE bankroll currently?
Approximately, I don't have the exact numbers right now, but I would say it's probably around the 1 million mark. Maybe less, maybe more. I can't tell you for sure, to be honest. But it is enough to pay for development expenses. And also it has the other side with it, which is where expenses actually come from, which is the team and development growth, which is reserved. So overall, there is plenty of capital and liquidity from all the sides to continue developing. Anyone that wants, feel free to ask, talk, or basically anything. I see people talking in the chat. You can do so in voice chat too if you want to. Hello? Okay, so maybe I can do a little bit of an introduction to myself. I am safe. I don't have an academic background per se. Most of what I know, I have simply learned it online and basically practice testing it on my own, pretty much. And I will be running for candidate for the upcoming state growth. And basically my proposals would be to slowly diversify away the holdings of the treasury from a 100% growth portfolio to something a little bit more balanced, but obviously taking into account the the sell pressure that selling grow may cause to the price. So it has to be done carefully. And also, if the price drops substantially, then the funds can be reversed the trend and do a buyback instead. And well, in regards to the DAO, the things that it manages is its own treasury. Then if it does happen, the treasury of the release token, which is temporarily named as GRT. And the third thing it manages is contract admin functions. So right now, the G token and PMT's admin functions, there aren't really that many. They are very subtle, such as, for example, managing parameters for leverage ratios. So a good example I can set is that the DAO would be able to adapt the leverage ratios and the margin rebalance, the rebalance margins of, for example, GC Ethereum, so that during more volatile times, it can be lowered, basically to protect against an extreme liquidation scenario, and during very low volatility scenarios, situations, it can basically lower that amount, those percentages, and as a consequence of that, do the opposite, basically maximize earnings without having to worry as much about the liquidations. And the other main admin function that exists within the contracts would be liquidity migration, which the two things that it triggers is, first of all, setting the redeem fee to 0%, which makes sense because after what you want is to move capital from that old G token or PMT to the new version. So that's why it makes no sense having a redeem fee there. And the other thing it does is triggering a 7-day time lock for the respective locked base. But so it gives enough time, and it also reallocates it for the
I think we lost him.
Rest in pieces.
We lost you there, Safe.
Hey, hello.
He's back.
Okay, that's all right. No, I was simply mentioning that the mobile version should actually work, but well, I'm not sure on the staking interpreters and so on because that's on the UI side. So maybe Irving can answer it.
Yeah, the mobile version is like just a responsive version of the desktop one. So it should work with the same functions like minting, redeeming, analytics. The only thing it isn't at this moment implemented is swapping for swing trading pools. That's on the works, but as right now the app should work. If it isn't, please DM me or send me a message or something, and I can check it out.
Are there any other candidates that haven't had the chance to speak up that are actually in the call?
I have a question around marketing. Could the team explain a bit more about marketing plans for Growth DeFi? Which kind of marketing channels are you looking into, and when do you anticipate the marketing really ramping up?
Well, I can't talk much about marketing because that's not the part I handle. But from what I know, some
Unfortunately, Safe's mic seems to not work.
Hello. Hello?
We can hear you, Safe.
Okay, so what I was saying is that I can't talk much about marketing because that's not the part I handle. But I do know that some YouTube channels have been contacted, and there's also contact with Cointelegraph to do an article and a couple other news sources. Nobody can hear me.
I can hear you.
Can hear you as well.
Okay, it's weird. No, I wasn't speaking right now, so maybe that's why it's confusing things. Are there any other questions? Anything grow related?
Well, I think this has been great. It's awesome to hear you talk about this stuff live, Safe.
Yes, I mean that's why if you have any questions, just shoot up. I mean, that's all. I'm not sure what else I can say, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, it's almost a little hard to have questions, right? Because you guys are always on top of things in the Telegram. So kudos on that.
Safe, are you already allowed to talk about the potential liquidity mining?
Liquidity mining, yes, that has to do with GRT and the rebasing token, because basically if it were to be agreed on by designers and everything, then it would make sense to have one of the Uniswap LPs be with Grow. So basically, it would be Grow / the rebase token GRT or whatever you want to call it, and obviously, the same way that there would be incentives for the other pair, there would be also liquidity mining incentives for that pair. So you could use your Grow to provide liquidity to that pair and farm tokens that way. So that's essentially liquidity mining. The reason introducing liquidity mining by issuing Grow rewards isn't really a good idea for G tokens and PNTs is that you are really losing a lot of growth in worth in comparison with the fees you are actually getting. So it's probably a net loss. I mean, they aren't there anymore. Then retaining capital on DeFi, it's very hard. That's why it has to be done, in my opinion, through a more long-term approach by having more consistency and also proving yourself with time. So I think that's the approach we should take and I'm aiming for. I see in the chat the benefit for growth to have liquidity mining. It's so that it isn't confused. I'm not talking about liquidity mining by using G tokens or PNTs. It would be liquidity mining farming the rebase token by providing liquidity to that specific Uniswap pair, which would be Grow and the rebase token. Any other questions or maybe a general topic that someone wants to talk or discuss about?
Maybe could you give a little more glimpse in why you think liquidity mining is very beneficial for Grow?
Are you referring to the Uniswap LP providing part with the rebase token, or to G tokens GMTs?
No, like grow with the rebase token.
Correct. So basically, it would be a way to lock up grow in the practical supply, because the grow that is providing liquidity isn't actually available to be sold until the liquidity is put out, and then the grow is actually liquid. Okay. And also because that's another use case for grow. Right now, the two options you have is to either hold it or stake it for stake grow. Also, regarding stake grow and how that's going to go in the long term, one of the other things that can be done is some of the profits that the treasury makes can go ahead and be allocated to stake grow holders. So it can also be a way to incentivize more people joining stake grow, locking up their grow, and also participating into the DAO.
And how it can be net positive or net neutral?
Liquidity mining. Well, you basically either you have already the two tokens necessary to provide the pair, or you would have to sell some grow within that same pair and then provide the liquidity. But overall, you are farming that other token and then selling it to increase your LP position. So you are generating fees, grow has more liquidity, and overall it's a net positive for both the individual, the user that is providing the liquidity, and also for Go, which has more liquidity. Because if you connect it with the rebase token, meaning anyone can go ahead and not only sell their Go for Ethereum or Uniswap, but also sell it for the GRT, and then go ahead and maybe sell GRT for Aave or any other token, then you have a wider liquidity path, which is very important when it comes to limiting the downside. Basically, the more liquidity that the token has versus its market cap, the more it's going to take for it to either go up or go down. Basically, it's more stable. If there is a lot of liquidity, then it provides an easier way to both entry and exit.
Okay, so yeah, that explains it very well. So it's also a lot about the timing, like maybe don't inject too much liquidity too early. Yeah.
I mean, in regards to the liquidity incentives, or which part are you referring to?
Yes, and in regards of the grow price, but yeah, I totally got why this is beneficial.
Yes, well, the exact amount of tokens that would be allocated to each pool would have to be determined by the multisig of that treasury, which is the same one as the signers for this Stake Grow DAO. So this is why it's so important to do the proper diligence when it comes to delegating and participating in governance, because the signers that are chosen, they can be changed, of course, in the future if people want to and they change their delegation votes to another candidate. But the general idea is that if you have good signers, then the project is going to do much better in the long run. And basically the idea of this community call was to solve any doubts that there may be, any questions, and also to let any candidate that wants to address directly to the community and more or less propose what they would do if they were part of those 7 signers.
I have a question. on the website, it's advertised that the code sources will be open source under the 3.0 license. Do you intend to release it after the audit or at the later stage?
Making the UI open source, is that what you are referring to?
Yes.
Well, it makes sense to have the code of the smart contract open source, but having the UI code open source, it's a bit riskier, especially when we are doing a lot of upgrades in the meantime.
Okay.
Irving can probably talk a little bit more about that.
Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
Yeah, just like to expand on Saif's idea, like having right now the UI as open source is not a really good idea, since we're keeping developing that. It still have some things to improve, some stuff to add, and to be honest, like that's something like a lockup for our project. Being open source opens the opportunity to fork it as it is. So at this point, is not like the highest priority, but I guess we will reach to that point.
Yeah, no, it was more from a security perspective question.
Sure.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Maybe I have a short question, not that much related to the DAO, but I'm curious about the other team members and their tasks inside of the dev team, or maybe even later in the DAO, because I mean, it's quite clear what Safe, Ivo, and Rodrigo are doing, but yeah, I would be interested a bit in what Mike and Ghost are doing, or if there are maybe a few more unknown team members we don't know about.
Correct. So Irving is the main UI dev. Rodrigo is the smart contract developer. Then Safe, Ghost, and Mike. Well, I myself, Safe, Ghost, and Mike. We are basically on the management side, so we carry a lot of the day-to-day functions and also managing all the stuff. And well, any other introduction, they would have to go ahead and talk it out themselves, because
Okay.
yeah, they're not here today, so I can't really speak for them. Hey Mike, they were just asking about a brief introduction, so if you can introduce yourself shortly. Hello? Maybe he's muted or something. Any other questions in the meantime?
Yes, this is more just, it's not really a question, but just picking up on what the team, especially with Mike not working for and for Ghost. Now, obviously I can't speak for Ghost, but I can just say that from the very start with PowerMine, it was basically safe, Ghost and Mike. Obviously, Safe's always in the chat. I'd like to also say, Safe, great job as always, both here and in the Telegram chat. But they are, those three would be the management team that basically never had our minds. They have been ideas, them three.
Okay, can you talk a little bit closer to the mic?
Yep, sorry. Is that any better?
It sounds far away from the microphone.
Unfortunately, I've only got like a wee plug-in set, my phone set. I've got the mic right beside me. But yeah, I'll just even shout this one out. It's more just to say that Ghost mightn't be here to give an exact description of what he does, but more just from my point of view and having watched the team, both Ghost, Mike, and managed, continue to manage online, and so a lot of the decisions that have been made in the actually developing Grow from concept to where we are now. A lot of the ideas going on in the background are those three guys. It will be until we have the DAO set up and then the community will start to maybe look towards. Of course, I really hope that these three will be applying. I think it's important to have a lot of my votes, and I think with the likes of Mike has development experience. I think it's important that we have developers on it. Yeah, but that was it. It was just basically to say, because Ghost isn't here, and I know Safe doesn't want to speak for him. I just wanted to give my opinion. You know, of the three of them have basically took PowerMine and grew it to where it is. The addition of Power DeFi with Per. The chosen one. These all come from and has been due to the coding, which is those three. So I don't know if that if that answers anyone's question really on what exactly is the CSS. I can't speak for them, but I can only give what I've seen. Of course, I'm very happy with all the work.
Is the functioning of ST Grow and G tokens, PMTs, DLOCTLPs, and everything else, is it 100% clear, or are there any parts of it that might be confusing or unclear to new people.
Yeah, let's not turn this into a chat.
I know I've had a lot of questions, but you've answered them all, and I don't have any until I have more.
I got it. I got it.
Maybe another unordinary question. What you see as the next big challenges besides of setting up the DAO? I mean, for example, if we thinking about competing with these short-term high yield protocols, of course we cannot we are not really competing with them as our approach is different, but I mean, do you see development-wise or API-wise any upcoming challenges, or what are the things you are most thinking about right now or concerned about?
Correct. So what I've been more concerned than looking things around is basically those DeFi projects that are heavily subsidized. Basically those that are doing a lot of token farming and liquidity mining. So I think that's an opportunity for the treasury, because the same way that I was explaining earlier, that some people may come, if we were to offer liquidity mining incentives for minting G tokens and PMTs, they might come, farm, grow, simply dump it, and move away while making bank basically of those farm tokens. Then the treasury can apply that same theory and actually farm other protocols. So if we have active signers, we can actually benefit from other protocols being a little bit desperate for certain TVL and volume, and as a consequence of that, they are overpaying for the price of that liquidity. So that would be another role of the treasury, basically to move profits from other protocols into our own by simply assessing correctly the risks that using that protocol has, and as a consequence of that, deciding whether or not to use it, fund the token, and then move profits to the GROWTH protocol. By the way, regarding the way the DAO operates and the multi-signature, it's using the Gnosis safe code, so it should be really safe because it's code that it has already been audited. And what has been implemented, it's a module that allows the contract to update who are the signers. So that way you have a normal standard Gnosis safe multi-signature wallet, which is governed by 7 signers. And then you have a module, which is one of the advanced parts that Gnosis Safes allows for customization, which is the part that the StakeGrow DAO operates. And that way, each day, if they want to, the designers can be replaced with new ones if the votes say so. And in regards to G-tokens and PMTs APIs themselves, the goal would be to add more strategies over time. The priority would be in the short term to add more safe strategies. This means implementing curve farming and bulk farming, among others. But in the long run, it would be interesting to add higher risk options and more complex ones as a way to seek for higher returns. Although these ones, if they were to be implemented, since they carry out a higher risk, they wouldn't be part of the PMT themselves, but they would be possible to, it would be possible to use them by a single G token strategy.
Could it happen that we get two PMTs, for example, for ETH, like for ETH? So let's say, because I think the PMTs are limited to 5 strategies, if I remember correctly. So would it happen that, for example, the first performing strategy is getting kicked out if the 6th is getting added, or would there be another PMT in this case?
Well, the reason it limited to 5 is due to gas costs. The more tokens that the PMT holds, the higher the gas cost for transactions. So it would have been a possibility to have a PMT with 20 tokens, for example, but the gas cost would be absurdly high and it would basically make it unusable. So that's why it isn't worth it. And regarding your question, it would be possible to make a second PMT, but I don't think it will be with the same risk-reward ratio. It would have to be for higher risk. So basically having 2 PMTs, one that aggregates risky strategies, and the other that aggregates less risky strategies, which is pretty much the one that we are using right now.
Okay, another question regarding the question before. You mentioned that it's a good option to farm high yield protocols with the treasury. I'm wondering who in the team is able to check how safe these protocols are. Like, I don't know, would, for example, if or Rodrigo check their smart contract and say, okay, this seems to be a good option, or how would you imagine choosing this kind of high yield protocols, high risk for the treasury?
Well, I'm referring to high yield protocols, but mainly those that are heavily subsidized by token farming. So an example of it would be, for example, farming cover with shield miner strategies. So when it comes to risk assessment, there are 2 types of risks. You have economical ones and also possible economic back exploits using the mechanics that the contract allows. And then you have contract ones. So obviously if the project has been audited, it will be less risky. And when it comes to risk, there are multiple factors. I mean, if you are using leverage for that specific protocol, then you would have to factor it in. But in general, it would have to be a decision taken by designers, which at least 4 out of the 7 have to agree on. So it requires a certain degree of consensus. And that's also why the multi-signature account designers are so important, because with proper management, they can accomplish a lot. But if they don't really care, or they aren't active, or they simply don't check things often, then it would make the multisig useless. Do you have any other questions, Stephen?
No, thanks. I'm just trying to use it as a kind of AMA, as long as no one has.
I appreciate it, to be honest. I appreciate it.
Unfortunately, in your explanation before, the protocol you mentioned that would be an example to farm it. Unfortunately, at least on my side, I couldn't hear you clearly, so I didn't understand the name. So maybe in the current market, you could give like 2 or 3. Okay, cover. Thanks, Damo. Maybe, yeah, you could like give 2, 3 examples that would be interesting to farm right now, so that we get a bit of an idea what kind of risk we are talking about.
Yes, so for example, the example that I was mentioning was covered shield mining. The way it works is that you mint insurance tokens, both for when a claim happens and when a claim doesn't happen. And you provide liquidity and balancing for it. One is an 80-20 pool with DAI, and the other is a 90-2 pool. And then you basically stake those tokens within their dashboard and farm cover with it. So the way it works right now is that it is heavily subsidized by the cover that you are given. So it would be a good option for the treasury to go ahead and take some of that.
Okay, thanks.
It has to make sense. It can be a random protocol that says in their website, hey, we are offering 10,000% APY, so let's just AP in and see what happens. No. It would have to make sense and have some logic behind it. In this case, I'm talking about the project which has a market cap of over 50 million and has quite a bit of liquidity. So you are being a little bit more reasonable rather than just blindly going into things.
Okay, that's answering my question quite well now.
If anyone has another question or wants to talk about something or propose something, feel free to do so.
Do you think we should do this again at some point?
Yes, I think community calls and doing them regularly would be a good idea, especially the designers, whoever they are when they are elected. They should really talk with themselves and maybe do like a weekly or a monthly call of some sort.
I agree with Joseph. I think maybe one time each week will be good. Not sure.
Yes, I was referring mainly to designers, but when it comes to the community as a whole in general, I also think it's a good idea to do regular updates. Maybe not as often as one per week, because that's quite often. But
Yeah.
once a month or something along those lines could work.
Yeah, that's cool. Thanks.
Yes, Mike, that's the text I sent you. That's basically what it is, cover mining. But that's just an example. I mean, the overall concept is that there are a lot of overpaid situations that happen as a result of the teams behind the token wanting to get as much liquidity as possible, as early as possible. Not having as much patience, and that's why these types of situations happen. So if the treasury can take advantage of them and make profit from them, then I see no issue from that. Jim, I see that you have written in chat that you would like to apply to be a candidate, but consider your knowledge to be limited. Either way, even if you are not applying to be a candidate, you can propose things. I mean, you don't have to be a candidate to say, hey, I think we should do this or do that and see what happens.
Hey, Save, one question. Like, for the governance, like guidelines, are we having a deadline to, or how are we going to design those guidelines?
Guidelines in which sense?
Yeah, for example, I know some projects have like this, if you want to propose something, you need at least, I don't know, like 100 stake row. So are we going to design that? I'm not sure.
Oh, no limits. I mean, anyone can run for candidate and anyone can delegate with any amount of stake row that they have. You could have 0.01 and still be able to vote.
Okay, that's good. Just okay, just to take into in my mind that might be some spam. I don't know.
Some spam of people running as candidates.
No, not as candidates. Like for proposals, I've seen some projects having spam issues.
For proposals. Yes. So
Yeah.
basically, it would be divided in three parts. The first part, which is the executive section, is basically the signers and the multisig. Then there would be the snapshot, which is essentially off-chain voting, so that stakeholders can propose something and directly send a message to those signers, so that they say, "Hey, we want this done." And then the last step would be either the Telegram or Discord chat, and also the forum, similar to Comps forum.
Okay, got it. Think safe.
I have a question, if I may. I think it's more for Irvolo, but I've seen on Twitter that you guys shared what the DAO will look like with the signers, the snapshot, the proposal, and so on. And it's just a suggestion, but would it be possible to add a tab in which the signer could at least put a brief introduction of themselves, so people know actually who they delegate their votes and in which purpose, in which direction see the signer, like just a small description so people actually have an insight into who or in which direction they are going to delegate.
Yep. So for your question, like the idea at first is just having the addresses and manage it just by Ethereum address for now, like at the beginning, to speed up the development process. But I think it should take some days to add this functionality like comp style, where you can add your profile picture and a small brief just to know who are who. And that's the idea. I mean, that will be managed off-chain. So we don't make some we don't manage everything in the chain, and it's not expensive. But yeah, the idea is to not be completely anonymous, but having like a small brief description, like maybe proposals. I guess that's the general idea.
Awesome. Thank you, Roberto.
No worries.
Yes, the whole election process itself is 100% on-chain. I mean, you could do it interacting directly with the contract address of the multi-signature wallet. You don't even need a UI in order to delegate and in order to apply as a candidate. But I do agree that it would be a good idea to have like a brief description of the proposals and what the candidate intends to do. But it's important to notice that even though that part would be off-chain, it doesn't affect the actual process. It's 100% on-chain. I mean, if someone goes ahead and has enough stake row in which they can vote for themselves or together with a couple of colleagues or whatever, they could do so without putting a description or putting a name or anything in the database. They don't need that, okay?
I have a question regarding the website. Is it still on the list to make the website more app focused, like centralized on around the application?
Do you mean the root website, the growthdefi.com, or the app?
I think someone, I think it was Mike, mentioned that there's a plan to focus more on the like the app being the center of the website instead of have this kind of two websites approach or two domains.
Okay, sure. Well, for now, the root website, the growthdefi.com, I mean that's only for information. So at least it's working right now. I think in the future it might be updated. The actual app is like the core for the protocol. So I think that's we're going to be. I mean we're using it at the 90% of our time there. And as for the governance app, we might do another like subdomain, like governance.growthdefi.com to manage everything governance related. So I'm not sure if it's on our roadmap at this moment. I need to ask Mike or what was he talking about. But yeah, I mean that's the goal.
Okay, this was just like a suggestion from my side maybe a few weeks ago or even months that I think lots of protocols have, if you visit their website, you either already on the app itself or at least you have a very direct idea where to get to the application or yeah, and I think that might be a good option to make it more obvious how to access the app from the informational website or, kind of combine it, yeah, to be like more easily on the application, because I saw it even in real life. Like I was watching a YouTube live stream and suggesting the guy to have a look at Growth DeFi, and he went on the website and was like clicking around a bit and looking into it, but he didn't even found the application itself. He didn't even press the button of the menu for the G token protocol, so he basically missed the most interesting part of the protocol, and this might happen a little more often than we think.
Yeah, no, I agree, Steve. I guess here the best approach will be to have the like a website a little bit more like intuitive. So for example, if you look at other protocols such as Compound, they have their root website, which is all informational, all white paper, analytics, but all informational. And then you have the app. I think here the approach will be to like not like integrate and make the app the focus, but like make it more intuitive so users who reach the website first can easily find the app. But I agree with you, Steph.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Steph.
They were asking on chat that regarding GB tokens, but the main idea about GB tokens was to have a more volatile option than the current safe G tokens and PMTs. So if the rebase token were to be introduced, then it wouldn't make as much sense to have GB tokens, since GRT would cater to that risk profile, basically.
Sounds good.
Okay, another question from the chat. You guys can ask it through voice chat too. With so much, I'm just reading by the way, with so much growth set aside for the DAO to manage, is there any worry of the cost to gain 4 out of 7 delegated spots being cheaper than the funds they could potentially control by doing so? Well, yes, this is an obvious risk, and it happens with any governance protocol. For example, if you were to control enough maker tokens, then you could essentially steal the funds that are in the vault, currently over $2 billion. So yes, it is a risk as with anything else. The thing is that if someone were to buy enough GROWTH to control this, first of all, they would have to do it without being noticed, because if they do, then it will be a whole lot harder. So if they hold a zero GROWTH position right now, it would be really, really hard to buy enough GROWTH. They would basically have to buy 40 or 50k GROWTH, something along those lines, when there is I think 60k GROWTH or something like that in circulation. So they would have to essentially buy all the GROWTH in circulation, and some people may not want to sell. And then even if they were to get the 500,000 GROWTH that are in the treasury, well, once it would be compromised, then the value of GROWTH would plummet, but because that person would start dumping everything. So they probably would end up with less funds than the ones they spent trying to hijack the whole process. So it is possible, yes, but it is very difficult, and in most scenarios, it's not really profitable to the one that is attacking it. And that's also why there is a 10% stake and non-stake fee, because it basically provides another layer of security, plus having the tokens not be transferable. Because if it were to be plain GROWTH, then it would be much easier to manipulate. And if in the future GROWTH is listed as collateral in a money market protocol, it could be Cream, Maver, Compound, or any other, just like GFI is now listed in Compound, then it would be a governance risk having it being possible to use it for flash loans or borrowing it for malicious purposes. So yes, it is a risk, but it is similar to having someone take ownership of the majority of something and thus having control over it. But if it were to happen again, it would pump a lot the price of GROWTH, and it would be really hard to execute, basically. That would be the summary. It would probably make more sense to have a large investor. If they are really interested in the project, they could go ahead and mint a large enough stake of stake GROWTH, and maybe have 1 or 2 spots within the 7 signers. So they would have influence within the protocol, but not complete ownership. And it also makes sense because they have the biggest exposure. Someone who has a lot of GROWTH, of stake GROWTH, sorry, it means that they have, first of all, bought the GROWTH, so they have exposure to whatever price action the token does in the upcoming months or years. And secondly, they are also committing themselves for at least a certain time frame in order to make up for the fees being paid. So that's why it would be in their best interest. Maybe they have different opinions than the current signers, and that's an option. But even if that's the case, they would probably still want to make the best out of GROWTH in the long run, because they are incentivized to do so. Regarding the bug bounty, $100,000 bug bounty question, the idea is to keep it for as long as possible, because having a bug bounty always adds to security. If there were to be the case for a critical bug to be found, then that attacker or exploiter could have the option to be a white hat and take money without having to then worry about who's tracking him and so on. So yes, in a nutshell, the idea would be to maintain it for the long run. Obviously, it may not incorporate all tokens. I mean, if it's a very new token with a very high risk profile, it may have a different back bounty or different rules, but the idea is that GRT is just a temporary name for the rebase token. It would be, as the letters stand for, it would be growth rebase token, GRT, but it's just a temporary name. And the main idea behind it would be to link it to Aave instead of the dollar or a stablecoin, which is linked to the American dollar, because it introduces a whole other range of possibilities, and it also allows to have most of the funds of that treasury in the stake Aave version, in the safety module that Aave V2 has to earn an MPY. And it was, well, it's not decided because again, this might be something that doesn't happen in the end if designers don't agree to it. But the idea of linking it to Aave and not to DPI, which would be the DeFi Pulse index, is because Aave itself has a lot of exposure to the whole DeFi ecosystem. I mean, if trade increases in SushiSwap and Uniswap, then there is going to be more demand for traders to borrow in Aave and leverage their trades. And same thing for other protocols such as synthetics, money market protocols, and basically anything else. So if DeFi does well, then Aave is going to do well. And you also get rid of some of the tokens that can easily be farmed and dumped, such as, for example, Comp and Balancer. So you don't have that sell pressure on the main portfolio. When I say linked, I mean that it rebases to it. Okay, so I don't really understand the question. This means that if GRT is worth 1.5 Aave, then it would happen, there would be a positive rebase and the tokens in circulation would increase. And if it's below 0.95 Aave, then the supply would be reduced. If you are referring to the treasury, of course, it can hold many things, and that's where the synergy with Grow comes, because Grow in the end it's also an automated portfolio manager with PMTs and G tokens, so the GRT treasury can go ahead and take advantage of that to store some funds in the long run. Okay, another question in the chat. It's regarding G indexes and how they are different with PMTs. Well, G indexes, it's similar to what the PyDAO is doing at the moment, which is basically creating indexes with balancer pools. They can be smart pools to make it more customizable. But in a nutshell, it would be holding a variety of PMTs within a set percentage portfolio and having it rebalanced with arbitrage opportunities. So a very simple example would be having, for example, 50% the PMT of Wrap BTC, 30% the PMT of Ethereum, and 20% of 2 or 3 PMTs of some DeFi tokens, and that would be an index basically. Another question, Steph, you can ask this on voice chat, by the way, because otherwise it looks a little bit weird when the...
Yeah, sorry, I just don't want to interrupt you while you're talking, and maybe I forgot about my question in the meantime.
So can you tell your question on voice chat, please?
Yeah, so my question is, you were saying above that if we go with the GRT option, that GB token won't be necessary anymore. So it seems like you think that they are more net positive overall. And my question is why this is the case. Because, you know, for the people not doing the math, it's not that easy to understand why they might be more net positive.
Correct. So GRT, first of all, it doesn't divide up all the liquidity, because if you have GB tokens, then you have 1 GB token for every PMT. So it would be divided up in GB DAI, GB Ethereum, and so on. So then you are splitting up the liquidity in a nutshell. And basically both of them cater to a more volatile aspect. So in the case of GRT, the market cap and everything is going to be more volatile, but that's also why it's more profitable, because the main idea with GRT is that you buy it and use it to provide liquidity. So you are both making money from the fees that happen from the trade between the pools. Then you are also making money from the extra tokens that you are farming, the incentive given to that specific LP, basically. And finally, in the long run, as the treasury builds up and kind of creates a growing floor support, then you are also benefiting from that. So it has a lot more of game mechanics, and overall having a second treasury really helps out, because in the end, having more assets under management by the stake growth DAO, it's going to represent a higher TVL and use in the protocols, and also a higher influence of the growth token in itself. Because it goes with the question that was being asked later. What stops from someone going in and trying to buy as much GROW as possible to control the multisig? Well, that also creates a buyer demand. If the DAO controls a lot of funds from its treasury, but also other treasuries, then that's going to create more buy pressure for the token. Because if you have control, or if you have decision power over those funds, then you are going to make more worth of it. So that's another way to increase the price of GROW.
Okay, thanks. Very good explanation, by the way.
Answering Adam, PMTs are comprised of G tokens and liquidity. PMTs are a combination of the liquid token and G tokens. So the most basic example would be the PMT of Ethereum, which is called G Ethereum, which holds a portion in Ethereum, and the rest is distributed in G tokens that might make that Ethereum go. So the current distribution is 90% GC Ethereum, which is the compound strategy for Ethereum, and 10% the liquid token of Ethereum. We have been in this call for a little bit over 1 hour and a half, so not sure if anyone has a final question to close up the call. They can just say so in voice chat. There's no need to actually write it on chat.
Thanks for taking all the time, Safe.
Good call, in my opinion, and thanks to everyone who took the time and took part.
Thanks, Safe. Great job. Cheers.
Okay. Well, if nobody else has a question, it has been a pleasure having this call. I really think we should do more of this more often, maybe once a month, kind of establishing a regular event. And well, if anyone needs anything, either through Discord or through Telegram, simply ask and it will be answered eventually. And that'd be all for today. Not sure if it has been recorded properly. Korn, can you say if it has recorded properly?
It has recorded 1 hour, 35 minutes, and 41 seconds up to this point. We'll see if it actually did it properly once I hit stop.
Okay, that's good enough. Well, thanks to everyone, and I'm going to exit now.
Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, guys. Thanks for joining.